A good cinematographer or DOP is the crew chief that presides over the camera and lighting crews on a film or video production. They usually get involved throughout the entire production life cycle and liaise closely with the director to create the images you see on the screen. So the list of tasks are such as dissect the screenplay, research film techniques and cinematic techniques that relate to the subject matter and elicit the intended emotional responses from an audience, creates shot list, floor plans and lighting diagrams, manages the camera and light crews, makes decisions about cinematic elements such as lenses, filters, lights, and other camera lighting equipment, responsible for making decisions about aspect ratio, digital effects, image, contrast, and frame rates, makes decisions about camera movements and film lighting techniques to prompt a specific emotional responses from an audience, and helps director and colorist during the color grading phase on a project. That's the job of cinematographer in a nutshell. So it's very important for a cinematographer to know what kind of lenses, what kind of camera equipment should be used in film production. And for example, in horror film, should know what type of lighting and camera lenses are required, and comedy, the same thing. And as a cinematographer, you will always be under the gun for time, just like money. There is never enough. The first AD will be asking how low until picture is up constantly, because the producers will be asking you how long until picture is up constantly. So before you even step on set, know the coverage, know the setups, know the lighting plans, know it all backwards and forwards and how you'll move efficiently between them. So it's very important to be ready, but you should know how to be ready and how to be prepared. The crew will often look to you to move forward, so don't let them down. Use shot list software to know the ins and outs of every shot. And it doesn't stop with the shot list. The shooting schedule is just as critical. Communicate with your AD so you can prioritize the order you'll be shooting and which scenes you are going to shoot. That means working with film scheduling and seeing how logistics will affect everything you do. Be an artist, be a reasonable one. While you shouldn't get too precious with your work and always serve the story, be versed in visual art and design terminology. It can be great shorthand with your director and production designer as well as others. Time is of the essence, and great cinematography need not be painstaking. At the same time, treat your shots and each frame like a work of art you want to get right. Even if you're doing it on the fly, make sure your framing works from a purely visual standpoint. There are many excellent camera techniques you can implement to achieve this. Take some time to familiarize yourself with great artwork. The tools of creating powerful images may have changed, but the basic principles have remained the same for hundreds of years. And take creative chances. I mean, everybody knows, okay, you start with a wide shot and then you move on to close-ups and medium shots and you pan pan out and tilting. We have to be creative when it comes to cinematography. The overall idea here is to emphasize that taking risk can pay off if they are calculated ones that you run by others. Don't be afraid to break some of those rules that instructors drilled into your head during film school. Dogmatic cinematography techniques can be okay, but some rules were made to be broken. Plus, playing it safe leads to getting into the habit of average, mundane shooting. Your best cinematography might appear when you think out of the box, pick your spots, and of course, if you get too crazy all the time, you might have some issues staying employed. So you have to know the script. Far too often, camera crews and even DOP don't know the script backwards and forwards. And you can see the same mindset at play in online forums and groups where the focus is screwed so heavily towards gear and technical cinematography techniques versus the art of visual storytelling. Being a cinematographer is as creative as it is technical. Make sure the ideas you bring to the table are grounded in a knowledge of the scripted material. Debuting about camera equipments and gimbals. They are fun, but being creative and artistic is something else. I mean, a great early example of director of photography was in Citizen Kane. DOP Greg Tolan kept his depth of field and used light and shadow to direct the eye, creating a more dramatic look. Without a focus on how to serve the story, such innovation would have been rendered meaningless. So, make notes in your script. Bring a visual suggestion, questions, ideas. Have conversations about the style to emulate other films this story reminds of. The better you know the project, the better you'll be able to help serve it. Also, use the right gear for the job. Not every shoot will need a fully decked out Alexa package with cinema zooms. Sometimes a shoulder-mounted camera is exactly what the project needs. Get familiar with all types of cameras and lenses, not just the big-ticket cinema stuff. Being precise about what you need is one of the most important cinematography techniques you'll develop. Because if and when the director asks for something out of the ordinary, you'll need to be ready with not only suggestions, but also the knowledge to implement those techniques into the story, into the film. And knowing how to achieve the same end goals will make you favorite among producers, which likely means more jobs for you. Also, don't forget to perform camera tests. Learn how to do traditional camera tests with a chip chart, color chart, and human models, and then do them once you get your hands on the camera. With proper testing, you can see exactly how the camera reacts before you get on set and determine a lot of lighting and shooting strategies beforehand. As opposed to on set where you'll have a dozen people waiting for you to get to know the camera. You might have learned to do this in film school probably, or not, I don't know. But you're talking about it here so that you understand. For example, make a shot list. You want to make a shot list right after a tech scout to determine what lenses you need. A well-organized shot list is going to be one of your best tools on set. You can also quickly add and organize shots on the go. Many other cinematography techniques are dependent on your ability to understand and utilize tools like for example, or shot list. Some tools are online you can use. As a shot list example, for example, there are so many. For example, Studio Binder has some great tools, or you can just Google it online to find some shot list maker, or some script writing softwares have also shot list maker. If you don't want to do it manually, so you can generate shot list. Another thing is location. Location is very important. Find good locations. Understand what the light will look like there at different times of the year or day. The better your locations, the better your look with potentially less work from you and your crew. Never say, fix it in post-production. The best cinematographer typically comes from your location and lighting and not with, let's say, DaVinci Resolve. Post-production software will not be listed amongst my cinematography technique. Plus, whatever you can capture naturally on set might takes away more time and money to recreate in post-production and cost a lot of money. So the best way to make sure to get the best look the first time around is give yourself time to create it. That means planning the shoot carefully and committing to your game plan on set. If you don't think you have time, use screenshots from existing films and TV shows and share it with your team. And another thing is leadership. Prepare to do it all. You probably, after film school, you think that, okay, that the role is done, but the thing is, the set needs to flow, which means you need to be in sync with everyone else. It is ideal not to act as tough you are an island. So get to know the whole process and be ready to fill in. You probably might think that, okay, it won't always be that way, but you should have a working knowledge of every role on a set. This isn't just in case you have to fill in. It's also so you can understand and respect the process of everyone else's work. Knowing how long to give, for example, makeup designer time, or knowing that you need to allow for them to have last looks before you roll can also come in handy. So the set needs to flow, which means you need to be in sync with everyone else. It's ideal not to act as tough, for example. And workflow is you have to lead the group. You have to be a good leader. Some of the most important filmmaking tips I can give that crew respect clear, fast decision making. I mean, you have to be very good at decision making during the process, so everyone would respect you as a cinematographer. And be aware of how much work you are creating for them. They're probably happy to do the work, but will become unhappy if they find themselves being told to take down the light and they have to put it right back 15 minutes later, So be clear and respectful. Take the blame for mistakes. Be a responsible leader. Efficient cinematographers are the best cinematographers in the crew's eyes because it means good cinematography, fast setup, and finishing on time. Keep track of who you've worked with in your crew and who you worked for in a production. Hire the right team and listen. Remember, it's very important. If the most experienced person may be working for you with years of camera experience and film and lighting techniques under their belt. For example, your gaffer and key grip in particular are both highly trained creative individuals. Use them to help solve problems. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. Check your ego at the door. This is pretty good policy no matter what you're doing. Egos only ever get in the way. Don't argue in public. Try not to argue during production. Disagreements happen all the time during film production. The first thing you should try and do is see where the other person might be right. After you've done that, and there is still a fundamental misunderstanding, then you have to find out where is the problem, because no one ever looks good calling people out in public. So if you have any problem with cast and crew or director, try to solve the problem in post-mortem or in private. Even if you're right, don't argue in public. You can just say, can I talk to you alone for a second? And that would be a great idea. So find a tactful, peaceful time and place to approach the misunderstanding or argument or whatever problem is happening during the shoot. So especially it happens all the time between director and cinematographer, so make sure to do that. And at the same time, you should recognize that not everyone else will be doing that, so be careful of egos. They're fragile. A film crew on a set is like an army going into the battle. So remember who the enemy is. It's not the men or women you are in the trenches with. So keep morale high, fight for the same things, approach disagreements as though you want to same end result and just see different paths. So work together to find the right path. And keep the frame moving. How you use your frame is one of the most critical camera techniques, whether it be moving that frame or moving items within that frame. You want to keep things active and visually engaging. And get creative with lenses. You don't always need a 21 millimeter.